The most dangerous sport in human history was designed to keep its athletes alive. That sounds wrong. We picture the arena as a slaughterhouse. Thumbs down, sand soaking up blood, men dying by the dozen for a bored crowd. And some of that is true. But if you were the man who owned the fighters, the man who paid for their food and their training and their doctors, death was the last thing you wanted. A dead gladiator wasn't a spectacle. He was a write-off. Years of investment, gone in an afternoon. So the men who ran this business did something strange. They built an entire industry around a simple, cold calculation that a living fighter was worth far more than a dead one. And when the crowd's appetite for blood started to run ahead of the money, the Roman state didn't step in to stop the killing. It stepped in to stop the spending. Today, we're opening the account books of a Roman gladiator school. What it cost to buy a man. What it cost to keep him. And the one expense that could wipe out a fortune in a single day.
The Romans had a word for the man who owned a gladiator school, lanista. And here's the first thing worth knowing. In polite Roman society, a lanista ranked about as low as you could go, roughly on the level of a pimp. Respectable people didn't invite him to dinner. They also couldn't do without him, because the lanista ran something the Roman world was addicted to. His school, the ludus, was part barracks, part gym, part training academy, and part investment portfolio made of human beings. He bought fighters. He fed them, housed them, trained them, and then he rented them out to whoever was staging the games and took his fee. To picture him properly, forget the villain from the movies. Think of the owner of a professional sports franchise, crossed with a slave trader, crossed with a financial strategist. He was managing capital. Volatile, breathing, expensive capital. And that raises the question this whole video is going to chase. Everyone knows the gladiators bled, but did the men who owned them actually make money? Was a ludus a good business or a fast way for a rich man to lose a fortune? To answer that, you have to do what the lanista did every single morning. You have to look at the numbers. So let's start where he started, with the cost of buying a man. A gladiator arrived at the ludus through one of 3 doors, and each door had a different price. The cheapest were the condemned. Prisoners of war, criminals sentenced to the arena, men the state had already decided were expendable. They came in fast and they came in cheap, and the lanista knew most of them wouldn't last. These were the bottom of the stock, what the Romans bluntly called the herd. Then there were slaves bought specifically for their bodies, strong, young, promising. These cost real money because the lanista was betting on potential. He was buying raw material and hoping to turn it into something valuable. And then, this surprises people, there were volunteers, free men who chose this. They were called octorati, and they signed away their own freedom for a set period, swearing a brutal oath to be burned, chained, beaten, and killed by the sword if they broke it. Why would anyone do that? Debt, mostly. A desperate man could take a signing bonus from a lanista and try to fight his way out of ruin. By the empire, a surprising share of the men in the arena had walked in on their own 2 feet. Whatever the door, the lanista was now holding an asset that produced nothing yet. A raw recruit couldn't be rented out. He couldn't earn. He had to be made. And making him took years. That's the part the crowd never saw. Behind every polished fighter in the arena stood a training operation the size of a small company. The larger schools in Rome and Capua could hold anywhere from 200 to 1,000 men at once. Rome's flagship school, the Ludus Magnus, sat right beside the Colosseum, connected to it by an underground tunnel, so the product could be delivered to market without ever touching the street. You didn't build something like that to watch men die. You built it to protect an investment. And protecting that investment cost money every single day. Which brings us to the bills nobody talks about.
Buying a gladiator was the easy part. Keeping him was where the money quietly drained away. Start with food. Gladiators had a nickname, hordeari, the barley men, because they ate an enormous, deliberate diet built around barley and beans. This wasn't scraps.
Bone analysis of real gladiators has shown they were fed a heavy, carefully managed diet designed to pack on a protective layer over the muscle, so a cut would bleed for the crowd without hitting anything vital. Feeding 200 men like that every day for years was a standing bill that never stopped. Then the medical staff. This is the detail that tells you everything. A serious ludus employed skilled physicians, and one of the most famous doctors in all of antiquity, Galen, got his start patching up gladiators. Think about what that means. You don't hire the best available medicine for men you intend to throw away. You hire it because every fighter who heals up is an asset back on the books, and everyone who dies of an infected wound is money in the ground. And it kept going. Trainers, the doctores, often retired gladiators themselves, each specializing in a fighting style. Armorers, to make and maintain the weapons and armor. Cooks, guards, staff. A ludus was a payroll. Whether the fighters worked or not, whether the games were running or not, the lanista was covering that payroll month after month. So picture his real situation. He sunk a large sum into buying men who can't yet earn. He's spending steadily to feed, heal, train, and guard them. He's carrying all of that risk on his own books, hoping it pays off later. For a long stretch, a gladiator school is pure outflow. Money going out and nothing coming back. Which means everything, the whole business, depended on the other side of the ledger finally kicking in, the day the fighters were ready to earn.
Here's how the money finally came in. Someone wanted to stage games. A politician buying popularity, a priest of the imperial cult fulfilling an obligation, a rich man showing off. He was the sponsor, and he almost never owned fighters himself, so he came to the lanista and rented them. A whole troop, a familia, delivered for the day. And the fighters themselves? Even as slaves, they earned. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius fixed a gladiator's cut at somewhere between 20 and 25% of what the lanista collected for renting him out. A winning fighter could bank that money, fight after fight, and if he lived long enough, buy his own freedom outright. Because freedom was on the table. The rarest prize in the arena wasn't gold. It was a plain wooden sword, the ludus, handed to a fighter who had won so consistently that the crowd and the sponsor released him. A living legend walking out the gate a free man. It almost never happened, but it happened often enough to keep hope in the barracks, and hope kept men fighting hard, which kept them valuable. And a truly great fighter? A champion was worth a fortune. The crowd came to see him. Sponsors bid against each other for him. His name went on the walls of the city. For the lanista, a single star could carry the whole school the way one franchise player carries a team. The margins on a champion were extraordinary. So on paper, the model works. Buy low, invest heavily, rent out at a premium, and pray you grow a champion. A lanista with a stable of winners could pull in serious annual profit and buy his way into political influence, low social rank and all. But there was a catch built into the very center of this business. A single risk that could turn all of it, the years of feeding, healing, training, into nothing in the time it takes a sword to fall.
Here's the trap. When a sponsor rented a gladiator, he was responsible for what happened to that man in the arena. And if the fighter died, the deal changed instantly. It was no longer a rental, it became a purchase. The Romans understood it exactly the way we'd understand it. You break it, you buy it. Rent a man, and he dies fighting, and you now owe the lanista the full value of that man. Not the small rental fee, but the entire cost of the asset you just destroyed. For an ordinary fighter, it stung. For a champion, it was ruinous. A sponsor could walk into the games planning to spend a modest sum on entertainment and walk out owing a small fortune because his crowd got what it wanted and a great fighter didn't come back. Now follow what that did to the whole system. The crowd loved death. Sponsors, desperate to please the crowd and win votes or favor, kept pushing for it. And every death drove the price of gladiators up because the lanista had to be made whole for his losses. Demand for blood was pushing the cost of the entire industry into the sky. It got so out of hand that in the year 177, the emperors themselves intervened, not to stop the killing, to stop the spending. A decree went out across the empire capping what gladiators could cost. Even for the grandest games, the very best fighter was capped at 15,000 sesterces. The lowest fighters, the herd, were pinned at 1,000 to 2,000 each. Sit with that 15,000 for a second. A Roman legionary, a professional soldier, earned around 1,200 sesterces a year. So the price cap on a single top gladiator equaled well over a decade of a soldier's pay. And that was the government trying to make it cheaper. The state had that much reason to act because the games were enormous. The tax the empire collected on gladiatorial shows ran somewhere between 60 and 120 million sesterces a year. The emperors gave up that revenue to bring the cost down. That's how expensive the appetite for death had become. So the picture inverts completely. The killing, everyone remembers, wasn't good business. It was the single biggest liability in the whole enterprise. And the lanista spent his life doing everything he could to keep his most valuable men out of the ground, because the arena's most famous feature was also its most expensive.
So, was owning a gladiator school a good business? Let's close the books honestly. On one side, real revenue, steady demand, a captive market, fat margins on a champion, and enough political leverage that a despised lanista could still whisper in powerful ears. In a good year, with the right fighters, a ludus made its owner genuinely rich. On the other side, brutal costs. A heavy upfront investment in men who earned nothing for years. A payroll of trainers, doctors, and armorers that never paused. And a tail risk sitting under everything. The chance that one bad afternoon erased your best asset and left you swallowing the loss. This wasn't a steady business. It was a high-variance bet dressed up as entertainment. The kind of thing that made a fortune for the man who managed his risk coldly and destroyed the one who let the crowd's bloodlust run his ledger. It rewarded exactly the instinct that felt least heroic. Protect the investment, keep them alive, don't let the spectacle cost you the asset. Which leaves us with the strangest verdict of all. The safest way to profit from the deadliest sport in history was to spend your life fighting to keep death off the sand.
If you found yourself rethinking the arena today, that's the whole point of this channel. The real numbers behind the history you thought you knew. Subscribe and stay with me, because the account books only get stranger from here. Next time, we're leaving the sand for the sea. We'll count the cost of a Viking longship, what it took to build one, crew one, and turn a boatload of raiders into one of the most profitable ventures of the early medieval world. This is Owning History, where history opens its account books.